I think everybody knows something about it at this point, that it is a virus that's coming out of China, and it's created a big to-do among at least some people. And there's a whole range of opinions and stuff out there that has elicited even a lot of trepidation and fear in people. And so one of the things that we want to do this afternoon is consider the reality of things, as opposed to just get swept up with opinion and fears and so forth. And one of the first things I want to do is show you a presentation by Dr. John Bergman. He's a doctor as well as a medical researcher. And I think he's done quite a good job in helping to put this into perspective. And so I'm hoping all of our devices are going to cooperate here so that you can hear it clearly. One of the things I want you to observe, though, and take note of, is what are his suggestions in dealing with this problem. And you might be a little surprised. But in addition to that, of course, I want you to take note of how he sees this fitting into a whole perspective.
And the truth will set you free. Truth is variable, though. Okay, so right now we're going to talk about the coronavirus. And February 4th, 2020, this is the latest information you can get. And you're going to see the different sites to look it up, how it's changing rapidly. Let's go back to Etienne de Harven. Virus mania is a social disease. Does anyone agree that this is incredibly insane? Some people are saying it's the end of the world. Some people are saying it's nothing. Some people are saying, let's just go over the facts. Okay? No, the facts that what we have now, not supposition. To err is human, but to preserve it is diabolic. Oh, God, I love that. Okay, so this is out of the journal Lancet. Okay, just came out of a few days ago. The Wuhan, China, atypical pneumonia. And it's interesting, too, because it doesn't have a lot of nasal symptoms. It goes right for the lungs. But there's varying stages of this. When you look at the case studies, some people are incredibly sick. Some people aren't sick at all. There's a couple of other coronaviruses. I mean, there's about 7 types of coronaviruses. Some of them cause 25% of the common cold. Okay, others was SARS back in 2002. Now that had 8,000 cases, 800 deaths. That's huge. When you look at 2012 Middle East Respiratory Syndrome, and this is a zoonotic virus. It began in camels, camel milk and meat. It was in 27 countries, 2,494 cases with 858 deaths. So what are the controversies out there? I got to tell you, there's everything. You're looking at wild bat and snake mutated. It just kind of happened. And then some people say there's a SARS protein on it that can't be created. Some people call it a genetically bioweapon. Some people think it's an experiment to create a vaccine for the common cold. Okay, so this way you can create a panic so that you have a solution. Some people say it was started by the CIA, and this goes on Hong Kong theories. Virus to decrease the world population, so you can see World War Z if you want, a cool Brad Pitt movie. I think World War Z was it. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Or I've heard one. It's a pandemic created by the CIA to take focus off the impeachment. It's insane. Okay, we're not going to go into crazy theories. Okay, some of them may be accurate, some are not, but there's not a lot of data for it. Stephen King was right. Panic is highly contagious, especially when nothing is known and everything is in flux. When you go to Washington State, what did they say about the coronavirus? Okay, most people with mild coronavirus illness recover on their own by drinking plenty of fluids, resting, taking pain and fever reducing medications. I don't recommend the pain and fever reducing medications. We're going to talk about that. That's pretty stupid. But they're saying, hey, just take care of yourself and you're going to be okay, since coronaviruses really do cause the common cold. Experts are still learning about the range of illness. Reported cases have ranged from mild to severe pneumonia. And it goes from 2 days to 4 days to 14 days. But here's the thing, are they infectious while they don't have symptoms? And then when they recover, are they infectious after that? A lot of people, there's no hard data. So when they say, look, wash your hands, if you're infectious, don't go outside. But who's to say that you could still be infectious but be asymptomatic? Washing your hands is a good idea. Avoid touching your nose, mouth. Avoid contact with sick people. And I mean, this is all common sense stuff. Cover your mouth. They say, a chew like that isn't good. Okay, no, that's gross. Okay, but you're supposed to cough here. But, even that, you're just spreading droplets, okay? So just common sense. You're going to wash your hands. Now, when we look at the causes of colds, okay, and flus, that red area is the coronavirus. Now, according to the New England Journal of Medicine, you're going to see New England Journal of Medicine and Lancet were right on. They're trying to crank out some papers. They say it's between 1, 5, or 14 days. So again, the data is not accurate of exposure to development of symptoms. But also, you can get exposure, develop, mount an immune system response, and have no symptoms. Okay, like every other virus, it's based on your immune system. Length of illness can be 7 to 10 days, maybe 3 weeks. And how long you're contagious, nobody knows. So let's go to Johns Hopkins. Now, this was Sunday, okay? Sitting around, anyone like hanging out with me on Sunday doing research on coronavirus? Yeah, that's why I was single for 20 years, okay? I thought this was fun. Okay, so you go to Johns Hopkins website, and here's the link. Then, so if you want to see it, it's kind of interesting. And they're saying 14,000 people have it confirmed. Now, was it really confirmed viruses? You got to assume that maybe it is, okay? Whether it is or is not, because, the American hospitals are notorious for not testing viral illnesses. You got 2 or 3 people that test positive and a couple of people with a cough or a cold. They typically stop testing, and possibly because they want to create a panic or they're just ignorant. Now, as of Sunday, there were 14,000 people, and still 98% survival, 2% death rate. Yeah, that's right. If you got it, okay, according to Sunday, okay, and this may change, 98% survival rate. Now, you'll see 14,000 on Sunday, 305 people died, which is huge. That's a lot of people dying. When you look at the whole SARS epidemic, you're talking 800, and that went on for months. This is only going on for about a month and a half. And 443 people lived. Monday, here's the number. So we go from 14,000 to 20,000 cases. The death toll went up to 426, and the survivable rate went crazy. And this was yesterday. This is today. 24,000 people have got it. Okay, you're seeing the death rate really isn't changing exponentially, but the survivable rate is. So, and when you're looking at this, 24,000 confirmed cases, 23,984 are located in China. Now, China supposedly right now is doing an amazing job quarantining their people. And that's the only way to prevent really the spread of it. And the key, and this was kind of interesting, it's called the RO number, or how infectious it is. Like if you look at measles, that has an RO number. Some I've seen 8 to 10, some 12 to 18, which means if one person gets it, they can spread it to 18 people. Okay, that's a lot. Okay, the RO number of the coronavirus, the novel coronavirus, is around 2.5, 2.6. It really is based on the data. So that means if you get it, and again, this is the Lancet article, came out, I think it was January 31st. Epidemic doubling time is every 6.4 days. They infer that epidemics are already growing in multiple major cities in China, lag time about 1 to 2 weeks. At this time, in January 25th, even though when we're looking at this, it shows 24,000 cases, they thought that it'd be about 75,000 people that have it. It's just they weren't confirmed or sick. Because remember, if 98% of the people are getting over it, then not everyone's going to have, I got a cough, I'm going to go to the hospital. You're only going to go if you have some type of respiratory or some type of complications. Now, this is interesting. Reading this article, they talk about herd immunity. That means, and you hear a lot in vaccine circles that we have to vaccinate everyone. So that way, you'll stop the spread of it. Well, vaccines can't induce herd immunity. Okay, it doesn't work that way because vaccines aren't 100% effective or 100% safe. They literally are going to have, and just like all medications, if I give everybody here one drug, you might have a good response, you might have a crappy response, you might have no response. And that's how medications and vaccines work. Some people are going to have a great antibody response, some not. So you can't use something like that. But a wild virus, a wild infection, creates the Th2, Th1, a humoral and cellular response. I mean, it's brilliant. So the more people that get this, the more people have herd immunity where it can't spread. That's how viruses work or infections work. And so this is a really cool plot. It's hard to see at the bottom, but the peak area of that plot is around April of this year. So they figure it's going to rise consistently. And remember, if it stays consistent, 2% die, and the 2% that dies, we're going to go over what conditions they have, but it spikes up, and that means the 98% of the people are going to get it and don't have it, so then it's going to drop off fairly rapidly. So it should peak around April according to the Lancet. Okay. Now this is out of the New York Times, and that pink area down there in the corner is a rough guesstimate of the death rate. Okay, it's 1.5 to 3.5 maybe. Okay, right now they're looking at around 2%. So that's why if you look at the actual viruses, they have a little thing, but there's so much unknown about this virus. Okay, what's the death rate, what it is? Right now, it looks like it's around 2. So just to cut it short, sweet, clear, this is what you do to protect yourself. Does anyone remember the Ebola crisis?
Yes.
Okay, but I mean like 2-3 years ago when, they had all these people in super headgear coming in to take this patient, out of the airplane, to bring the first Ebola case to America, and then some people aren't even wearing any protective gear, and it's just like, dude, do you have no protocols for handling an infectious disease? But that, we actually had an Orange County housewife, a couple of them, coming in and say, what do I do to protect my kids from Ebola? And I said, well, next time you're paddling down the Congo, because it's doesn't infect that many people. It's really rare. You got to have a weakened immune system. There's a lot of parameters you gotta fulfill to get Ebola. Okay, now this is what you do to keep your health maintained. This is everybody. Deal effective with physical, chemical, or emotional stress. Why? Because if you have physical, chemical, or emotional stress, your body goes into the fight or flight state, and the immune system is weakened. Vitamin D3, it's based on your body size and type. Okay, D3 between 5,000 and 50,000 units a day. Dr. Mercola recommends 100,000 a day for a week. So inundate your body with vitamin D3. It's sublingual is great. Vitality C with ribose is one of my favorites, but that's pretty much just 2 scoops of that in a quart of water, and you drink it throughout the day. That's what I recommend for my staff, and I provide it for them. Does anybody know how to tell if you've had too much vitamin C? Diarrhea. Okay, yeah. It's called bowel tolerance. You know how when you were like 4, 5 years old and you thought diarrhea, you'd snicker? Okay, I'm still the same way. Okay. Magnesium. Fantastic mineral. About 500 milligrams a day, and you could get the spray magnesium transdermal. Deep sleep, fantastically important. So check out our sleep restriction videos. We're using the nightshades, the journaling, all of that. Sauna. Now, if you have an infrared sauna, fantastic. If not, make a poor man's sauna. Wrap yourself up in towels so that you can sweat at night. Because remember, at nighttime, this is when your parasympathetic nervous system, your rest, digest, and repair kicks in. And so if you can, for every 1 degree increase in temperature, the speed of the immune system doubles, it's fantastic. You're going to sweat off toxins, and let me tell you, it's a heck of a lot easier to change the towels than it is to change the sheets. I know. Hot soups. Now how many people in here have a grandma or mom that made hot soup that would kill a cold? Am I the only one? Okay, good. Thank God. I know moms were not that deficient. Okay, mine would make South African curried potato soup. I mean, it was amazing. But what I'll make for my kids since they were little, garlic, onions, ginger, so you got heat generating antimicrobial herbs, turmeric, cayenne pepper, so you got a vasodilating. You got the minerals from Celtic sea salt. You got root vegetables that have antimicrobial effect. I mean, let food be your medicine and medicine be your food. This is brilliant. Brilliant. Hot liquids. Okay. I was yelling a lot this weekend, so I am drinking hot water. Why? Because heat is rushing blood to my vocal cords. It's rushing blood down to my lungs, and viruses, funguses, and bacteria die at a higher temperature. I mean, it's just smart. Mild exercise, because that elevates your temperature and allows you to deep breathe. And that's where conscious breathing comes in. Imagine deep breath in, exhale all the way out. And you do that, you're going to get this oxygen carbon dioxide transfer. The Wim Hof method is amazing. Your fingers are going to tingle, and it's okay. But hyperoxygenating your tissue is fantastically good. Essential oils, if you're familiar with the blend called Thieves, I think Young Living has it. I think there's a couple of them. And this is from back when they had the 1300s, the plague. Thieves would go in and rob the graves of all these people that died of the plague, and they'd put cinnamon and clove oil and stuff in it that they felt it had protecting. Colloidal silver in a nebulizer, that's brilliant. Because you can take colloidal silver, spray it in and breathe it in, and it knocks out bacteria. Because one of the things with viruses is they weaken your immune system, so it predisposes you to bacterial pneumonia. So this helps with that. Now, going back to the Lancet, they took 99 cases, okay? So 99 people that have this inside of Wuhan, China, in a hospital. So they're going to find out, okay, what their age is like, what their lifestyles are like, who it's affecting most, and who recovers. And this is January 1st to the 20th. And they went through and looked at everything. So these guys actually had it confirmed. They did nasal swab, oral swab, sputum, something. But they found out that it actually was that virus. And this is what they found. The average age of the patient was around 55 years, 67 men, 32 women. Yep, women are always healthier. No, it's just, if you look at it, it's in China. So the men are getting beat up more, Now, we look at this. 50% had chronic diseases. So that means that the people in the hospital, half of them had an underlying chronic disease. We're going to go over the chronic diseases. And then we got the standard fever, cough, shortness of breath, muscle ache. Confusion's really unusual because that would have to be a blood infection or sepsis. Headache makes sense because you're going to have inflammatory responses or mucous membranes are going to swell up. Sore throat, leaky nose, chest pain, diarrhea, nausea. Now, the ones that got really sick, they had massive complications before the illness. The bilateral pneumonia, so it really does, this virus affects the lower lungs. So what can you do to help your lung function? Exercise, breathe, nutrients, supplements, sleep. So all of those things on that sheet to get better. Now, what kind of diseases did these people have that predisposed them to illnesses? Here it is. Cardiovascular, cerebral vascular disease. So that means the blood was healthy or unhealthy? Say unhealthy. Unhealthy. Yeah, that's right. Endocrine disease. Do we have a lot of endocrine disruptors in our environment? Absolutely. Absolutely. Digestive disease. Do we have a lot of inflammatory bowel disorders in our country? Absolutely. Okay, respiratory diseases, asthma, allergies. Do we have a lot of that in our country? Okay, malignant tumors, nervous system disorders. And so when you look at this, you think, well, that's why China is isolating it and walling it off. because if it hits really sick populations, it's attacking the really sick. Okay, does that make sense? So when we see 98% survive, what's the 2%? What do they have? And this is also like when you look at polio, how 99% survived. What was that 2%? What caused them to get that illness? And that's really the questions that have to be asked. Now, so if you're messing around and you decide to go on the World Health Organization website for emergency preparedness response, this is kind of a fun link, because you can go through and look at 2002. Now, this is just a part of it, because it is, an arm and a half long. I mean, it's a huge list of diseases that they're monitoring by day of month, okay, from report from country. And you'll see yellow fever, West Nile virus. Remember that one? Was that a panic as well? It was. It was. So you're going to see through here. And again, I'm just trying to bring common sense. We're not going to delve into the CIA, all that other stuff unless it comes out. But just right now, to stop the friggin' panic, okay, you'll see West Nile virus. You'll see acute respiratory syndrome in the Congo. Then in 2003, SARS, so that's when identified. And this was spreading throughout countries. And again, that was a panic. I did a whole thing on H1N1. Does anyone remember the bird flu of 2009? And countries invested so much money into it, and then it turned out it didn't really happen. Well, if you look at the data now, that some of it has been... what do you call fudging the data? Like if you have facts and you go back and change them? Fraud. Fraud would be a good one. Okay. So there were a bunch of countries that were pissed because the H1N1 didn't come over and take over the world. Okay. But now when you look back at the data, they're adding up every case that was suspected of H1N1 and said, oh my God, it was a terrible pandemic. And I never would have found that out unless I was doing research on the coronavirus. And it's just like, oh my God, these guys are crazy. Now, the genetic similarity, and this is interesting. When you look at biorxiv.org, full genomic evolutionary analysis of the novel coronavirus rejects the hypothesis that it's emergent of a recent recombinant event. So could it be from bats? Could it be from snakes? Could it be, somebody's, like if you remember HIV, someone was supposed to have eaten a monkey or had sex with a monkey, and then that's where we get HIV. I mean, it's, so we're at that stage of complete confusion. James Lyons Weiler, brilliant PhD guy, and he goes through and looks at some of the narratives of the possible sources of this. Natural coronavirus related to bat coronaviruses, not a recombinant virus, failed hypothesis, and he has reasons in there why he thinks it's not true. Recombinant virus that naturally picked up a SARS spike protein at the end of a viral genome, speculative hypothesis unlikely, because there is a SARS-like protein. When you look at the corona, it's like a round, viral structure or viral pattern. There's supposed to be a protein in there that's similar to SARS that would be very unusual. This is why a lot of people, oh God bless you, thank you, Mary. And so how did that protein get on there? Was it manufactured? And then was it combined for a bioweapon? He goes through that, and there are some evidence that there are some Chinese scientists kicked out of Canada for transmitting certain data. But bioweapon, why would it be like that? Okay, why would you unleash a bioweapon on your own people? Or was it just inadvertent? Is it really a bioweapon when you got 98% of the people surviving? And is 98% of the people surviving? Okay, so then we go back, and this is looking at the SARS, because one of the things that you look at when you're looking at the data is they tried to make a SARS vaccine. Okay, why? Because it was still in the news. Now, if you can make a vaccine that utilizes a coronavirus, remember, 25% of all common colds are from this. So you got a world market. The profit margin on this is crazy. I mean, ridiculous. You're talking massive. So in 2015, the U.S. called for an end to research creating new viruses in the lab that have increased threat, higher transmissibility, higher pathogenicity, and higher lethality. And they tried to build a vaccine with this. And in their animal model studies, they found out the animals, they had some protection from the virus, but they all ended up dying of secondary lung infections. Okay, I mean, we're talking everybody died from the vaccine. So if there is a vaccine that comes out in the next ensuing weeks, because remember, you saw that spike in the Lancet, we're down here and it goes up here. So, and that's April. So we have a couple of months here to listen to the hype, listen to everything to see which way society is really going. What's unusual is the CDC, which is usually Chicken Little. They're running around screaming, the flu is coming, the flu is coming. They're saying, you know, let's wait. And that's very unusual. Very, very unusual. Oh, and I like this. Lab-made coronavirus triggers debate. That was in 2015. SARS vaccine, adenovirus vector preparation method, application of the Corona S gene. This is actually the patent for the vaccine for a SARS vaccine. And I love what they say here. Present invention compared with conventional vaccine inactivated virus particles, it is safe and easy to use. Certain other conditions are not restricted by intramuscular injection. That was the writing on the patent. Okay, the real happenings were, holy moly, if we inject it in animals, they get sick as a dog and die. But this is safe and easy to use. Any volunteers? Just checking. Okay. So let's go back, because even if they make a weaponized a virus, okay, the viruses work in a certain fashion. Okay, so I want you to not be afraid of this. Now we've got Pasteur and Beauchamp. We're now finding out that Pasteur was wrong. Okay, that it's not the virus or pathogen that causes the disease, it's the terrain. And so what do we know so far about the coronavirus? Half the people have some type of underlying condition. Okay, and those are the people that are in the hospital. You're not seeing 100% of people with a cough or cold going to the hospital. So there's an underlying condition. So what is a virus? It's a well-organized molecular parasite. That's it. Okay, it cannot use, and this is an RNA virus, it can't use its own method to reproduce. It has to use a host RNA to reproduce. So if I cough or sneeze, or I sneeze on your burger and give it to you, I know it's gross. It's gross, but you're going to be a chiropractor, so I think you'll deal with it. Okay, so if I do, and you develop it, it has to utilize your RNA or your substance, your cell materials, in order to replicate, in order for you to pass it on. Now, the R vector, how spreadable this is, the coronavirus will infect about 2 to 3 people. So that means that if I infect 3 people, that's about it. I'm not going to infect 10 or 15, because that's how strong the virus is. It's not highly contagious like measles, which will affect anywhere between 8 and 18. So it's not a living organism. It's a well-organized molecular parasite. And this is Fabio Romero, the Institute of Human Virology. Up to 45% of your genetic information is viral. We have no reason to be afraid of this. Even if it's genetically modified, destroyed, let's find out how your body works, okay, to knock out some of the panic. Now, could there be dark forces creating something like anthrax, weaponized, or something like that? Absolutely there could be, but we don't have any evidence of it directly right now. Now, viruses are vital for our ecosystem. They're able to move genetic information. So let's look at how the body works. Like, how does your body respond to a viral, bacterial, fungal, some kind of assault? First, you increase mucus production. Okay, what does that do? That walls it off, releases histamines, so your body can take time to mount a cellular and humoral response. Brilliant. Histamines are released, driving immune system cells up to the site of injury. Fever is amazing. For every 1 degree increase in fever, the speed of the immune system doubles. The bronchus start to inflame because that rushes blood to the area, and the blood, if your blood is healthy, like not the predisposed injury that we saw, like with toxic blood, with the predisposing, the endocrine disruptor, the inflammatory bowel diseases, all of those that people are getting this virus and going to the hospital with. Bronchus may inflame because that's how the body is literally healing itself. Coughing and sneezing used to eliminate the mucus. Diarrhea, that's to alkalinize the system, and then you recover. Now, this is weird because just in the last few years, I'm starting to see information from the children's hospitals that are trying to calm down parents and say, let the fever run its course. So what advice can you give to every human being on the planet, okay, about fever? Well, first, your body is self-regulating. Fevers are self-limiting to about 105, 106 degrees. In order to damage tissue, it has to go up to 108, and you have to artificially elevate that. But let's use common sense, okay? Let's say, and this is totally different, if you have diarrhea, if you have vomiting, you could be electrolyte deficient, so you're not going to be able to sweat or cool yourself off. So let's say that you have 104 fever, and you're shivering. What's a shivering guy trying to do? Heat up. Yeah, because you're spasming out your muscles. It's close. It's close. Okay. What's a sweating guy trying to do? Say cool off. Cool off. Oh, good. So same fever, 104. One guy's trying to heat up. The other guy's trying to cool off. And you never want to give a toxic chemical to lower the fever. I mean, that's just insane. What would grandma do? She would get a room temperature bath and cool off the abdomen. That's how the body would cool down. One of my sisters had scarlet fever. I remember packing her in ice in the bathtub. And that's what you did if the fever was up too high and they were uncomfortable. Or if they had diarrhea or vomiting and they couldn't sweat. So when we look at this, fevers are brilliant. Here's the Journal of Allergy and Clinical Immunology. Children who ran fevers during the first year of life were less likely in later in life to develop allergies. So when I'll tell parents, use your common sense, throw away the thermometer. If a kid has glassy eyes or your partner has glassy eyes and they're starting to lose it, they're going to be too hot. You know, put your hand on the back of the head. And fevers don't go like this and then go like this. They're going to go up and down, up and down, up and down. And that's why. Has anyone in here ever had a cold? Okay, what happens? You feel crappy, and then you feel a little better, then you feel crappy again, then you feel a little better, then you feel crappy, and then eventually you feel really good because you're heating up and relaxing your immune system response. I mean, it's a brilliant system. Body temperature must get above 108 to cause damage. Temperatures high as this are only caused by exceptional circumstances, such as central nervous system disorders or heat stroke. Acetaminophen, this is one thing that if you have it in your house, you get it away from you. You don't want bad karma. You don't want to give it to someone you don't like. Okay, this stuff is deadly. Okay, deadly. Damages the brain. It increases autism rates exponentially, damages the blood-brain barrier, weakens the immune system, and then, according to this, you're looking at asthma, COPD, and again, we're looking at an infection here that tends to affect the bottom portion of the lungs. So do you want to give a fever-reducing medication that causes chronic obstructive pulmonary disease? Say no. I know, it's like, dude, you know, if you're gonna have a sick person, be smart enough to not give them this. Doctors, look at nutrients, because when you look at all the CDC site and everything else, They're talking about hand washing. There's not one mention of vitamin D3, not one mention of vitamin C, not one mention of deep sleep, not one mention of healthy fluids, hot soups, spicy foods, essential oils, all the stuff that the most basic common sense mom would tell you. And it's like, dude, get smarter. Antibiotics are good for some bacterial infections, except 80% of your immune system's in your gut. And if you take a wideband antibiotic, you're damaging the normal flora in the gut. The only time, and there was a really cool article about the first patient in the United Kingdom. And they followed him from when he had it, checking him, watched him, he got pneumonia, and then watched his sequelae. So after he had totally recovered, and they tried a little bit of an antibiotic, wideband to prevent a secondary bacterial infection, and they stopped that after, I think, a day and a half. So it wasn't really effective. But know that if you're working with antibiotics, you're working with gasoline and fires all around you. Okay, this is extremely dangerous to your immune system and should only be used as a last resort. Now, viruses, funguses, and bacteria die at a higher temperature. So there's a lot of other ways that you can do to get this. I mean, how about in a sauna or vitamin D3, all of this stuff. A nebulizer with colloidal silver, all that stuff works fantastic. Mucus, and I saw this advertisement to reduce mucus. It's like, are you serious? You're taking out the number one line of defense that protects your mucous membranes? And you want to decrease it? That's like the things to clear your nose and shrink the antihistamines. Histamines are the most vital part of your immune system you got. It's just crazy. Vomiting. If you start to develop vomiting, replace the electrolytes. Get healthy amounts of sea salt, healthy sugars, sodium, calcium, potassium, magnesium again. Coconut water's best source. If you have diarrhea and it's not induced by high doses of vitamin C, look at charcoal, psyllium seeds, peppermint. All of these things are fantastic. But, okay, we had a couple. He was the band director of the USC marching band, and they all went to New Orleans, and this was like 15 years ago. And the entire band got diarrhea. He calls me up, and him and his wife were there, and said, what can we do? I said, allow it to get rid of your body. Diarrhea has an alkalinizing effect. You took something in that's not good. Your body is trying to get rid of it. Okay, is this like ridiculous common sense? It's like, come on. And allow your body to go through this, get some coconut water so you can replace the electrolytes and you're going to be fine. They said, okay, that makes sense. Everybody in the band, they had to cancel their event because they took things to stop diarrhea, Imodium something or whatever. But you left the poison inside of the body instead of the body alkalinizing and getting rid of it. It's insane. Now, masks. Masks are mainly to stop the droplets. It's not going to stop viruses getting in or going out. It's interesting when you look at this. The number one best thing about masks it causes you to not touch your face or your nose. So if you touch something that may have a virus on it, and then you touch your face, it's getting close to the mucous membranes, and then that'll mount an immune system response. And exercise. This is the weirdest thing. This goes on the Wim Hof method, conscious breathing, everything. What does exercise do? You're going to start to aerate your lungs. You're going to start, and this is just mild exercise, but it literally elevates your temperature. So it's fantastically good for you. Not extreme exercise. If you're tired or dizzy, don't do it. But we're talking just really, really mild exercise. Get out there, get in the direct sun, and work your body. You're going to help with the lymph flow, everything, or lymph flow. I just threw this in there for a little bit. Daycare. So putting your kid in a group of children, because right now, is there panic or panic? I know, making it really simple. There's freaking panic out there. So you got people that are, God knows what they're listening to, but they're hoarding their kids. There's, no, you can't go out, you can't run. Well, let's just look at normal environmental exposure with other kids and leukemia. The overall estimate, Reduction in risk may be as high as 30, and better studies show 40%. Proposes that earlier the child is exposed to a variety of infectious agents, the better the immune system is primed. And this was 12 years ago back, and this is going to be tough because it's hard to remember back 12 years ago. That was before forced vaccinations, way back when. I know you didn't think that was possible, that life was still around without the government forcing you to get a medical procedure. But this is way back when in 2008 when vaccines weren't forced. So what do you need to keep your body healthy? Proper nutrition. And this is why the antibiotics in the bread is weakening the immune system. Why 60% of American adults have a chronic illness or inflammation, and they have a weakened immune system. So whether it's getting scared by the coronavirus or waking up to say, wow, your body's not healthy. We had a gal today, 2 rounds of breast cancer, cut off one breast, then they cut off the other. Uterine tumors, we're looking multiple rounds of cancer. And she says, but I feel fine. I don't hurt. Okay, should I have been shocked by that? Because she doesn't know that that is an immune system response that she's having, and she's looking for pain or symptom. Hey, cancer is a symptom. Inflammatory bowel is a symptom. Poor sleep patterns is a symptom. One bowel movement a day is a symptom. It means that your immune system is not healthy. You got to have vitamin D, and this means more than just sunlight exposure, particularly in the winter. Vitamin K2, vitamin D3, and omega-3s. This is hugely important for brain function and immune system. Bottom line, take care of yourself no matter what. Okay, don't panic. Okay, as information comes in, let's look at it with thought and preparedness. It's the old saying is, pray to God but tie up the camels. You know, the best defense that we have against anything is a healthy immune system, and you're built by God. So that's a good start.
And he pretty much there goes and mentions a couple presentations that he's going to be doing. And if you should want to review what he said, if you do a search on Dr. John Bergman, and you'll find it on Facebook. This presentation was done on February the 4th, last month. So, okay, it is a couple weeks old, but he gives us some fantastic information, and he gave us a lot. So I just want to review a little bit to make sure that you catch certain points that I think that are very key. And did you catch that there are 7 varieties of coronavirus? 7 varieties, and these also cause the common cold. As much as 25% of the common colds are from a coronavirus. So that starts to put things in perspective there. Yes, SARS was also a variety of coronavirus as well. Now, yes, this coronavirus has some unique things about it. It has some little spikies or whatever he talked about proteins on the surface. So there's some uniqueness, but there's some relation of this virus to other things that we've encountered already and which we encounter all the time, which is the common cold, as much as 25%. Now, do we expect the cases to increase? Yes, we according to what he said, we should still expect it to increase. So when somebody comes along and says, oh, it's still increasing, it's going up. Well, yeah, according to even the Lancet, we're expecting it to go up continue to go up at least until April before it starts to come down again. So just because it's increasing shouldn't be a panic mode for us. It's part of the natural up and down. And also remember, and he brings this out, well, this is not the first panic that we've had. We've had what? Ebola, we've had SARS, we've had West Nile virus, we had the bird flu. Did we live through it? Yes. How many people did we know that died from that? 0. Exactly. Did some people die from it? Probably. If we looked into the statistics, yes, and some of he actually did show that there are statistics showing that people died from it. But even according to what he showed, if we dive into who are the people that died from these viruses, they have heart disease, they have cancer, they have a poor immune system, they have hormonal problems, they have heart problems, they have circulatory problems, so they have issues. And one other thing I find most interesting, did you hear him talk about what he called RO? It had to do with how many people an infected person would in turn infect. Okay, I'm not quite sure. Yes. And do you remember the number he said that probably a person infected with coronavirus, that number, how many people a coronavirus infected person? 2. 1.5 to 2 people, maybe 2.5, but around 2. How many was it for measles? 8 to 18. So what should we be more concerned with? Measles than coronavirus. So it starts to put things into perspective that, yes, you can get sick, but let's put this in perspective of all the other infectious diseases that we deal with so we can not be afraid and participate in this panic. Also, as far as vaccinations, we might see a vaccination. It will be interesting if we see a vaccination coming out of the pipeline from this, and this is what he mentioned. If we watch to see what is the end result from this, we might see if it was, for some reason, it was around in the first place. So we'll see that in a few months to see if a vaccination comes out of it. Is the vaccination going to help? No, he showed that as far as the herd immunity, you probably heard him talk about herd immunity. That has to do with when, say, like all of us here are immune to a particular infectious disease because we've built up immunity to it. But he showed that the way you do that is through actual interaction, your body's actual interaction with the wild variety, not a vaccinated variety of that infectious disease. So that means your immune system is actually interacting with actually getting it. But as he said, a lot of people that even get exposed to this coronavirus, their body will have it in it, but their immune system takes care of it and they won't even necessarily have the symptoms. So one other important thing that he mentioned that we have to remember is what he called the terrain. Do you remember him talking about the terrain? Our body's terrain. What he's showing is that the researchers are seeing now that it's not just the virus that's what we need to be concerned about. It's actually more so our individual body's environment, what it is, because that is going to determine whether or not you get the symptoms in the first place, or at all. Whether or not you have any of these underlying predisposing conditions, whether or not you have a weakened immune system, or whether or not you're living very healthily. And another thing he mentioned I find very fascinating. Did you hear what he talked about viruses being actually essential for the ecosystem? You'd never think of that, would you? You'd think of, a virus is a pathogen. It's something that we wish we never had on this planet. Actually, though, in some creation science circles, they wonder if things like viruses and mosquitoes and snakes, the things that inject venom into us or something, were actually ways of injecting additional genetic information into our bodies that would be beneficial. Now, this would be under a pre-flood environment with higher oxygen rates, so we can't expect that today. But in a perfect pre-flood environment, that may have been the case. And here he's telling us as much as 45% of our genetic information is viral. Wow. So that means viruses are not entirely just villains. There may be some things that are opportunistic, yes, but how it affects you and I depend on how we take care of our own health. Are we taking care of our health problems, or are we just ignoring them? Are we endeavoring to live as healthy as we can, or are we just doing whatever we want? And of course, he goes on and shows things like mucus production and diarrhea and vomiting and fever. These are all actually good things. We should not be using medication to try lower fever or stop the runny nose. Instead, it'd be better to use an herb to help the expectoring. In other words, getting it out as opposed to stopping it. You want to get it out. So things like garlic will help to get that. That's an expectorant to get it out. And there's a few other things. So we don't want to stop the body's natural processes. As he even says, a fever is brilliant. For every degree that your fever goes up, your immune system doubles in its activity. So fever is not a bad thing. And there are some things we can do to actually increase our body's temperature. Things like hydrotherapy. He didn't talk about hydrotherapy, but that's essentially what it is. Exercise. Who would have ever thought that exercise would be a valid way of stimulating your immune system because it's raising your temperature? So when you exercise, keep that in mind. It should be to a point that you're feeling warmer than you are. So you're starting to sweat a little bit. It's not just a stroll down the road. You need to feel a little bit hotter than you normally do, and this stimulates your immune system. I was fascinated by the things he told us to do. What was he essentially telling us to do? Natural laws of health.
That's right.
What we eat, our exercise, our water, our sunlight, our rest, our sleep, our trust. He even talked about prayer and meditation at a point. He's essentially telling us to follow the 8 natural laws of health. He's obviously not an Adventist. I don't believe he is. I don't know for sure, but I doubt he's an Adventist. But that's essentially what he's telling us to do, to take care of ourselves, and we really don't have much to worry about. It is a virus, but we have other viral things that we're dealing with. We have measles, we have the seasonal flus, things like this. So this panic is really, it's really overrated, shall we say. Of course, if you are sick or something like that, you probably don't want to go and visit your 90-year-old grandmother in the nursing home. Because what? Her immune system is being compromised. If you're a carrier, you don't need to be carrying it to her. So some common sense, as he kept saying over and over again, let's just be common sense about what we do. Our mothers and our grandmothers probably know more than many of the other information that we are being given. So, and keep in mind too that fevers up to 105, 106, those are self-limiting. We often get scared when they start to get to 104. So, okay, maybe we could start managing them with hydrotherapy, but we still don't want to force them down with acetaminophen. They're self-limiting. He talked about how do they get higher than that, is that's with heat stroke, being out in the sun with not enough water, not enough electrolytes, or you have some neurological conditions. But otherwise, most fevers are self-limiting. And it's interesting too that as far as even little kids, it's good for small children to get a fever even in their first year. It's good because according to him, it helps them to helps prevent allergies later on, helps to stimulate that immune system. As I've read in other places, let your kids eat a little dirt. Won't hurt them. Actually, it helps to stimulate the friendly bacteria, the colonization of the friendly bacteria in their gut, which, as he said, 80% of your immune system is in your gut. So stimulating that friendly bacteria is good. So if they eat a little dirt, don't panic. That's actually good for them. Probably not a whole cup full, though. I'll take your question this after.
Okay, when you said dirt, you're speaking, I know I was little, you used to eat stuff what they call white dirt.
White dirt, clay.
Yeah.
Well, we use clay today as a means of pulling toxin. Many colon cleanses have clay in them because it helps to pull toxins. So it's okay.
He also said something about chalkboard.
Oh, okay. All right, sure. Then I want to summarize then as far as reviewing some of the things that he said to do. because he said different things in different portions. Wash your hands, that makes sense. Wash your hands before you eat. Wash your hands after you use the toilet. Just plain hand washing. There's some people that think you've got to have hand sanitizer. Soap and water still are very effective. If the store runs out of hand sanitizer, don't be scared. Also, if you want some hand sanitizer, you can also make your own hand sanitizer using colloidal silver and some aloe vera gel. Mix the two together and you have your own hand sanitizer. As far as colloidal silver, he mentioned that a couple times. As far as your lung infections, putting it into a nebulizer, something that asthmatics will have, putting that in as a nebulizer and breathing that, and that gets it into your lungs, which is really good for those lung infections. If you don't have that, get one of these humidifiers. The cool mist humidifier that puts out a little bit of mist, put straight colloidal silver in that and breathe that in. And that will also get it down into your lungs, and that can be very good. Drinking some, of course, or gargling with it, that can be helpful if you're getting it into your throat. He mentioned as far as his throat too, drinking something hot can be helpful for dealing with your throat conditions. It helps to bring the blood to your throat and then, of course, to your chest area. So some very simple things. If you have hot tea, better yet even. And with some of the other things he talked about, ginger and turmeric and garlic and onion and all these kind of things. Some people talk about a natural antibiotic with all those together, and that's fine. That's another thing that can be used. Or even just straight, fresh, raw garlic. Using cloves of garlic every meal, that's a good thing too. He talked about don't touch your face because that puts the pathogens closer to your mucous membranes. Of course, covering your mouth when sneezing or coughing. Talked about D3 several times. And now you've probably heard me talk about D3. D3 is really important with some K2, and we get some from the sun, but probably not enough. It's definitely not enough in the wintertime, so supplementing with D3 is good. Vitamin D3. He talked about ribose, which is a supplement that sometimes helps with energy. He talked about vitamin C. Most of the time we don't take enough vitamin C when we're sick. You don't reach bowel tolerance. You heard him talk about bowel tolerance as far as diarrhea on there. But usually if you're sick, you can go up to 8,000 to 10,000 milligrams in a day when you're sick. It's like when your body is sick, you can take a whole lot more, whereas on a healthy week, you might get bowel tolerance at, say, 6,000 milligrams. But if you're sick, you could easily go up to 8 to 10, for most people, before you reach bowel tolerance. And when we're doing that, take like 2 or 3 every 3-4 hours. You don't have to be especially particular, but some researcher seems to think that you take, say like if you're doing maybe 12,000 a day, you do 3,000 4 hours apart, something like that. That having that interval instead of having it every hour. And I think that has to do with because the body clears out the vitamin C about every 4 hours out of the bloodstream. Magnesium, and I've talked about magnesium. Magnesium is really important, transdermal as well as oral. We have some transdermal oil in the office if you're interested for that. Deep sleep. Sleep is important. We know from the 8 laws of health. Sauna or sweating, wrapping yourself in towels as he mentioned. Hot soups, that's like the garlic, onion, ginger, turmeric, whole salt, hot liquids, deep breathing, getting our oxygen into our lungs, again, part of our 8 natural laws of health. Breathing in deeply because that virus likes to settle down in the lower part of your lungs, so as you deep breathe, you get that area of your body to move, to circulate. Essential oils. We talked about colloidal silver, coconut water even for things like diarrhea and digestive problems, proper nutrition, omega-3s such as like with chia seeds and flax seeds, those kind of things. and he had also mentioned meditation and prayer. So I think with the information like here, we can go away a lot better armed that the panic that is out there, we don't need to participate. Is it a virus? Yes, it's a virus. Do some people get sick from it? Yes, some people get sick from it, but not everybody gets sick from it. But how you live your life will determine to a great extent if you get sick at all. There are about, I think, 3 cases in Georgia. But I want to put this in perspective by another comment as I close here. This was a comment made just yesterday by a particular medical person. This was an article or posted on March the 6th, so I think that's what yesterday. Says, Trident Health Chief Medical Officer Dr. Lee Biggs pointed out that the seasonal flu has a much higher risk based on current statistics available than the novel coronavirus. He says, we deal with seasonal flu and we have for centuries, Biggs said. But this coronavirus being a novel virus, we've not seen it in this form before. But we have to put it in perspective, which is what Dr. Berkman was doing. We're looking at about 80,000 cases and up to about 3,000 deaths from coronavirus. But if you look at seasonal flu, that's 1 billion worldwide cases and about 600,000 deaths. Let me just read those numbers again so you can get your brain around that. So for coronavirus, we're looking at 80,000 cases and 3,000 deaths. That's coronavirus, 80,000 cases and 3,000 deaths. How many for the seasonal flu? 1 billion cases and 600,000 deaths. So the perspective and the scale is entirely different. So we should be more scared of the seasonal flu than from the coronavirus.
Yeah.
But what's getting the most publicity? Well, we know that. So this is an encouragement to take care of yourself. If you know that you haven't been doing something that's too healthy, now is the time to correct it. Bump up on your vitamin C, take your magnesium, take your vitamin D. Exercise. That's one of the things we often are lax on all the time. Exercise to the point you get warmer so your body temperature is warmer. That stimulates your immune system to a greater activity.